What's up, party people of the SFL? Can you guys hear me at least? What's going on? I don't know what's going on with the music. Now you can hear me? I don't know what's going on, but anyway, welcome to Season 16, Episode 21 of Axis Live. I'm your host, Dave Axis. Sorry that you missed the party music, but more importantly than the music, you can hear me, which means you'll be able to hear the panelists, and that's all that really matters. So welcome to the show. We got Week 11 recaps coming up, another wild week in the SFL. We've got the smartest man in the SFL, Gunny, with his pearls of wisdom coming up. We've got the Week 11 Diva of the Week nominees. We've got a Survivor Pool update next on Netma, and we will discuss the playoffs. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? Yes, we're talking about playoffs in After Dark for those of you who want to stick around and check that out. In the meantime, let me go check out the party people and see who is in his house tonight. Tyler Falk is here, the lovely and amazing Pink Lisa, Charles Boonberry, Josh Farnsey, Leon Thunderman. Leon Thunderman, good article today, bro. I read that stuff earlier that you guys put out. Nate Hall is here, of course. Minson's back. David Leathers, the man with the best first name in the SFL. That's what she said. Bullet Boletsky's here. James Walters, 87. Chad is in the house. Doug Britton is back. Bob Funk, what up? Tom Rahman is here. Tom, slide into my DMs later. I got to ask you some questions about some stuff. Let me see here. Bo Martin Jr., of course. Who else is here? Nighthawk 24. Evan Lacey. Optimus Klein, what's up, bro? Mike All is here. Let me see. Anybody else? Who am I missing? I don't really see. Who am I missing here? Is that everybody? If I missed you, throw it out there. DW2B28 Where is here. Don't recognize the name, but welcome to the show. Let me see. Maybe we got a couple first timers. We'll see. I said chat already. Freddie is in the house. Jeremy Vega, he's just here to hear Mike All get fined. We could arrange that. Your camera isn't up on Twitch? Dude, what is going on here tonight? I don't know what's going on. Why is my camera not up on Twitch? I don't know.
Dave,
Yeah.
you have yet to move the slider to add the next
Oh
scene.
my
Right
gosh,
now you're in preview.
Becky. Oh my gosh, Becky. Look at my face. There you go. It's my first time I'm on Albuquerque. Just joined the league. Well, welcome. Will Todd just jumped in. Looks like Mike St. Green is here. And I think maybe that's all. Look at me. I'm all over the place today. Here's the thing. I had a major headache all day today, but nothing's going to stop me from doing the show, even if we don't have music and even if you can't see my face at first. So let's get this party started. Let's excuses I hear. Let's find out who is on the panel for tonight. We've got in the unscripted circle, we have the glorious corner from the glorious Lone Star Glory, Mr. Bo Martin Jr. Bo Martin Jr., what's up? How you doing, bro?
It is a glorious, glorious Tuesday evening. What's up to all my SF aliens out there? What's going on?
And in the unfiltered circle this evening, we have the only person that Jeremy Vega is tuning in to listen to tonight, and that is All You Need to Know. Mike All, welcome back to the show. What's up with you?
You were looking live at the new dining room. This is the built-in hutch behind me. It's pretty nice.
You're giving us a new room every show, bro.
Yes, sir.
I'm digging it. I am digging it. Hey, can everybody see the show normal now? Is everything back to back to normal, up to par, yada yada yada? Hopefully it is.
You look good to me, Dave.
Thank you, bro. I hear that a lot. I get that a lot. All right, moving on to the unedited circle. Coming in for like his third show, I think now. He's becoming a veteran. He's definitely part of the Sweet 16 now. The one and only, after debuting his making his SFL debut this weekend, is Mr. Nate Hall. Nate, what's up? How'd the broadcast go this weekend?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that, but moving on, looking forward to the show tonight.
Hey, for what it's worth, I heard the beginning part, and I thought it started off really well, and you did great.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's too bad the second half just wanted to take a dump on me. So
well, you know what? As you can see, Sometimes those things happen in shows. I don't know what to tell you. Like what I just did tonight. And I already figured out why they didn't hear music, but I don't know. Should I go back and start it all over? I don't know. Maybe
No, I don't
not.
think Tyler has. I don't think Tyler has.
Tyler's
time.
short on time tonight anyway. All right. Speaking of Tyler Falk, we might as well just pop him in. Welcome back, Tyler. What's going on?
Hey, doing well, Dave. Great to be here, and I think we're a little bit both short on time as and I came in. It seems like I gave you a headache through just popping on the pre-show.
I think you did. I don't know how you did it, but I think you gave me your headache. One quick note before we get started is, how about them Bruins, baby? Final Four, took Gonzaga at overtime, lost on a ridiculous shot, and they should have been in the championship game, obviously, because Baylor treated Gonzaga like a stepchild. It was just terrible. So I think UCLA would have won a much better game, and I'm guessing UCLA probably would have won that anyway. But so go Bruins. I got the Reggie Miller jersey in the back, or it might be my Ed O'Bannon jersey. I'm not sure they're the same number. And I'm repping the Bruins one last time before we get full swing into SFL playoffs and Major League Baseball season. All right, I think that's enough yapping by me for now. Well, maybe not, but let's talk about one other thing. Actually, no, I'm going to get rid of this studio mode. I don't like it, actually, Tyler. I'm not digging it. Look at that. I forgot the party people. See, I try something new, and it just does not work. I got to stick with what I know and what I do. Real quick, I want to remind everybody, this was week 11 in the SFL. We had a bunch of games. There's the playoff picture. As you see, Denver still number 1. Florida wrapped up their division. Fort Worth wrapped up theirs. Baltimore 4, Vancouver 5, and then Jacksonville, Mexico City, Vegas, Tulsa, Lone Star, Los Angeles, and St. Louis. Don't forget, too, that part of these playoff records also are short a game. Houston and London will be playing that makeup game at the end of the season. So there's your quick update on that. We'll pull this graphic back up in After Dark when we hit that up. And then we're going to run over real quick. I want to show you week 11. This is what we had Saturday and Sunday. Kicked off with Baltimore, Mexico City, which was a great game, followed by Queen City, Lone Star, which was an amazing game. Wrapping up with DC Houston that day. London, Fort Worth kicked things off on Sunday, wrapping up with Portland at Charleston. A lot of pretty crazy games, a lot of close games. And Bo Martin Jr., we're going to kick things off with you this evening, if you don't mind, sir. The first game out the box was Baltimore at Mexico City. Obviously, I was watching my game that was going on simultaneously, and I saw the score. I saw the Aztecs jump out to a big lead, saw Baltimore come back, and then all of a sudden, Aztecs jump back in front and win the game again. Break that down for us.
Yeah, definitely this one turned out to be a game of the week contender. Now, if you watch the start of the game, you're like, wow, what is going on with Baltimore here? Because it was basically just, it looked like Mexico City was going to run away with it. Right out of the gate, Mexico City was up. They took a lead, and they were up by the time the fourth quarter started. They were up 23-7. So you're like, this is going to be a blowout, or this is, I don't know what's going on with Baltimore. So we'll get back to that in a second. Taking a look at the numbers, Jack Wigmore had a pretty good game. It was, as far as passing goes, we'll talk about the interceptions in a minute. He went 326, right? 326 yards passing. He was 33 for 47, 2 touchdowns. So you're thinking, okay, he had a pretty good day. Well, then you get to the interceptions, and perhaps it's you can't say a sophomore slump because, after all, Baltimore's 7-4. But Jack Wigmore seems to have these up and down games where he either does really good or he has a 5 interception game or a 7 interception game like he had a couple of weeks back. Today, or this past week, was one of the worst games for Jack Wigmore. He had 5 interceptions. And it was a little bit too much for Baltimore to overcome. I'm gonna take these glasses off because they're about to fall off of my head. Hang on a second.
Okay, Morpheus. Are you gonna send Nate into the what do you call it, the Matrix tonight, or what?
You already did, Dave.
I
No
must
one
have
can
missed
be
that
told
too.
what the Matrix is. No. Anyway.
He slid me that
Okay.
red pill before the show started.
Oh, hey, good thing you didn't slip me the blue pill. Anyway, Bo, go on.
Yeah, that's for something
Ow.
completely different.
Hey,
Completely different.
this show's off to a crazy start.
All right. So anyhow, on the flip side of the ball, Matt Wilson did really well. Didn't have the greatest day, but again, you didn't really need to when you got Jack Whitmore throwing 5 interceptions. What they did was what Mexico City did surprisingly well is they contained T-Roy Gaines. I was a little bit surprised to see that T-Roy Gaines only ended up with 10 carries for 27 yards. It's almost like Baltimore decided to abandon one of the best running backs in the league and try to win the game on Jack Wigmore. I was a little surprised by that, considering how dominant T-Roy Gaines is. Phoenix Jones had an average day, 19 carries, for 75 yards, 3.9 yards a carry. Matt Wilson, like I said, he did have 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He got sacked 5 times, so a little bit of a concern there for me looking at the offensive line for Mexico City. But Baltimore's defense did all they could to try to keep him in the game. But to be honest, the Aztecs, they really showed me something. I was kind of surprised. You had K.L. Barrett performing really well as far as the receivers go. 7 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. But that Mexico City defense, Jack Napier with an interception. Yeah. Ronnie Watson, a linebacker, with 3 total tackles and an interception. And then the big guy, Jeffrey Daggs, with 5 total tackles and 3 interceptions. And it's really hard to overcome that. Real quick, Baltimore tried to make a game of it. They came storming back in the 4th quarter. And all of a sudden, it was anybody's game. Baltimore takes the lead 24-23. And they just couldn't hang on as the Aztecs have a monster of a kicker who made a 55-year-old.
Damn, no wonder he's retiring.
A 55-yard game-winning field goal, and what turned out to be the game-winning field goal. And when you've got a kicker who can do that's almost an unfair advantage. So shout out to the Aztecs.
Real quick, I want to get to Jack's data, Bo, but here's an interesting thing. We all saw, I think it was earlier this week or last week, Baltimore put in the server that they're going to be looking for a running back. T-Roy Gaines is averaging 2.7 yards per carry, not having his normal type of season. What do you think? Is this the end of T-Roy Gaines? Or are we going to see retirement here, and is that why they're looking for a running back?
I don't want to speculate. You know what? It looks that way, Dave. But T-Roy has the potential to be an all-time great, and so I don't even want to think about him leaving the game just yet. If it is, I'm sure there's quite a reason behind it. But unless they're just trying to prep for possible, role expansions for next season, we don't know what's going to happen with that. But T-Roy is a beast. Whatever he decides to do, I'm sure the leagues and everybody's going to be behind him. So, but I hope, T-Roy, if you're out there listening, man, don't go out like that. Stay with us, man. We enjoy watching you.
Hey, Ramos in the chat said we got sacked 5 times because of a glitch. I'd like to see if he can expand on that a little bit. And I guess Charles is getting a little touchy. Take it easy on 55-year-olds. I'm guessing. I don't know, Charles. I think you wish you were 55 still. Hey, all right. Baltimore, Mexico City. Jack's data had this over under at 54.5. They scored 50 points of the game, which is super close. This game was a pick'em, and in the Who You Got, SFL Nation took Baltimore 99-70. So they start off week 11 0-1. Out the gate, moving on to game 2, my favorite game, and what a comeback and what a game, Michael. And I'm just saying, when Queen City scored their 34th point, I put in the Twitch chat immediately. Final score is going to be 35-34. We were down 34-21 at the time, so Nostradamus is here. How do you see things?
So Nostradamus did a good job there.
Whoa!
Good for him.
You know what? Hold on. Wait, what are you, unfiltered? Oh, you are unfiltered, apparently.
Nah, I'm unfiltered, baby.
Okay.
But yeah, so that game was pretty exciting. QCC, they came out in a dominant fashion. Their defense was strong. In fact, it was so strong that Ace decided to throw all 3 of his first passes to them. It was pretty impressive. Which, the way it ended, it may have been turning out that Ace was just trying to stack the deck so you guys look really good at the end of the game, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. I mean, they turned those turnovers into about 10 points, and that was the difference going into halftime, 24-14. However, coming out of halftime, Fennec and LSG's woes continued in the second half, as Fennec threw a pick 6 to Queen City to increase their lead. However, you guys, LSG slowly fought their way back, though, with some well-designed plays. LSG found themselves down 13 in the 4th. Before Ace dropped a deuce, touchdown pass, that is, to close the gap to 6. On the following onside kick, Albert Begin made a big leaping attempt to try and get the ball, but
how was that again, Mike?
Big leaping grab.
Gotcha.
But it just brushed off his fingertips before falling to the ground, where LSG managed to recover it. They then ate up as much of the clock as they could before finding big Adam Williams on a touchdown pass. And with a successful extra point attempt, they managed to take the lead, the first lead of the game for them. Then LSG's defense shut down Queen City to end the game, and the most dramatic come from behind victory of the week.
Yeah, it was quite possibly the most exciting game of the week. Ike McBride carried us in the first half. Mike, talk about her a little bit. 19 carries, 159 yards, averaging 8.4 yards per carry. Had both a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown in the game.
Yeah, so her season, like I said a few weeks back, it's finally turned around. She's finally gotten back on track. She's the dominant running back that she should be, and she's proven it. She's getting it done out there in the way she should, putting up 159 yards on the ground and 52 yards through the air, scoring a touchdown both ways. And that's one thing you guys like to point out about Ike, is she definitely goes both ways.
There you go. Works. She definitely carried our team in the first half, and then Ace and Adam, I think, kind of solidified things for us in the second half, along with some just great, some glorious defense. Jack's data had this over under at only 47.5, so 69 points in the game. We blew that out of the water. They were Lone Star was favored by 7.5. We did not cover, and SFL Nation, we get back to even 1-1, taking Lone Star 129-34 in the Who You Got. Moving on to Game 3, Nate. This game, Carolina at LA. Some very interesting stats in this game. I did not get to see this one, so break it down for us.
Yeah, very interesting stats in this one. I mean, when you look on it on paper, looking at stats, LA's large, they balled out this game, and looking at the score, it was only 17-13. You would have thought they would have or should have won by 10 or 14 points at least. You got Sully Richardson that went 19-34 for 237. But I think what kept Carolina in this game is Richardson threw 3 interceptions in this game, so he got bit by that turnover bug again, and it kind of kept Carolina in the game a little bit. But Robert Johnson, he went 26 attempts for 183 yards and a touchdown. Great game by him in all accounts. But yeah, it was close all game. Carolina actually had the lead 13-10 going into the fourth quarter, and LA was able to pull it out despite LA's tripping on their own feet most of the game.
So I think there might be a typo on this graphic. I'm not sure, because I'm looking at the on the website. It says LA had 0 turnovers, which I have on the graphic. But if you scroll down to Sully, it says he threw 3 interceptions. So
yeah, that's what I saw too. That's what I went by, is that 3 interceptions. I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
Yeah,
but
I mean, between the two quarterbacks, 5 interceptions and only 1 touchdown. Neither quarterback showed up to play. Problem with Carolina, we've talked about this, Nate, a lot in this show, is when Xander Gold isn't playing well and Logan Jack doesn't pick up the slack, it's tough for Carolina to win. Is this just another example of that?
I believe it's absolutely an example of that. I mean, 74 yards and 1 touchdown isn't a horrible game by any stretch of the imagination. We'll get to London later, but yeah, I mean, when Xander Gold tends to throw more interceptions than he does touchdowns at all, it turns out to be a bad game for him. So I think it's just another example.
Yeah, that seems to be the case with almost all teams. We've talked about that a lot on the show as well. But on the LA side, again, Sully and Xander, neither one were trying to win the game too hard. Robert Johnson was definitely the difference in this game. Talk about him a little bit.
Oh, like I said earlier, yeah, I mean, 26 attempts for 183 yards. I mean, what more can you say? He balled out in this game, and he helped his team. I mean, he really made up for his quarterback's mistakes if he did end up throwing those 3 interceptions. So he's definitely a running back that can carry his team when asked to.
Yeah, Davius Reed also 9 receptions, 148 yards and a touchdown. So there was a little bit. That's the only passing touchdown of this entire game. Nate, with time running out real quick, LA plays your Vancouver next week, and I believe the title's on the line. How do you see that going down real quick?
Not going to say either way. I just hope it does. I just hope it goes the right way for all people involved.
Oh,
that are in Vancouver.
And as soon as he says that, he goes into the Matrix. Look at Morpheus over there. Morpheus over there throwing him in the Matrix. Carolina at LA. Jack's data had this over under at 48.5. Only 30 points scored in this game. LA favored by 3.5, so you can't get much closer than that.
No one can be told what the Matrix is.
And it looks like we got 2 in a row, SFL Nation. 87-77. We took LA over Carolina going into Game 4 on Saturday. Tyler, we talked about this potentially being the game of the week. 2 high-powered offenses, 1 really good defense. A lot of yards in this game, especially on the Vancouver side, and this was a high-scoring affair. How did this break down?
No, I was saying on the broadcast, this is like a teeter-totter, but it more just going over it again. It looked more like 2 heavyweights just knocking each other blow for blow, sometimes almost immediately with a Robert Redford, 60-plus yard scamper, or a Grayson Willis long receiving touchdown on the first plays from scrimmage. So both teams were able to get their offenses going in a hurry. But let's just take a look at a couple of different people here. Robert Redford, over 200 rushing yards in the ball game with a hat trick of touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah.
My goodness, that's something we haven't seen in ages this season, or very rarely. Is this high-powered rushing attack from Robert Redford. We all knew he could do it. And again, we all knew a lot of these running backs could do it. T. Roy Gaines could do it. But with just coming out and just playing how they used to play, right? Tom Pepper throwing the ball, here, there, and everywhere. Over 400 passing yards, 450 passing yards for Tom Pepper. And he threw a couple touchdowns through 3 picks. But that's something we were used to seeing in years past. So this definitely felt like a matchup of old SFL, and it was really fun to watch.
We talk a lot on this show, and we just talked about it a couple games ago. When quarterbacks throw more touchdowns than interceptions, chances of winning the game is pretty good, and vice versa. This game is interesting, though, so I want you to break down for me. Christian Christensen, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 pick. Tom Pepper, on the other hand, 457 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 picks. So where was the difference? This is obviously a close game. It was, it's a touchdown game, right? What was the difference in the game?
So I talked about how Robert Redford had over 238 yards.
Yep.
It's like he stole them from Jared Willis, who only had 15.
Yeah.
Not 115, 1-5. So the ability for Vancouver to play both sides of the football really well, and for them to have a complete offensive game plan coming in, whereas Jacksonville couldn't run the football, just flat out couldn't run the football, and relied on Christian Christensen to make up the majority of the yards, which he did really well, but it hurt them in the long run.
Right. Brett Killian, 218 yards and a touchdown. Kendra, over 100 yards again with 133. So, Robert Redford's running all over the place. Peppers is slinging the ball all over the place. No doubt, no surprise that Vancouver, one of the top 2 scoring offenses in the SFL, put that many points on. What happened to Jacksonville's defense in about 15 seconds?
What happened to Jacksonville's defense? I mean, the same could be said for Vancouver's defense. They both let the opposing offenses do what they wanted to. Congrats to Keenan Samuels on picking up his first career interception, which, by the way, went for a pick 6. One of the very few players to ever do that. So congratulations to Samuels.
Very nice. Jack's data had this game over under 54.5. 80 points, blew that out of the water. Vancouver favored by 3.5, which was pretty close. And we dropped to 2-2, SFL Nation. We took Jacksonville 85-77, a lot closer who you got this week than normal on several of the games. Moving into Game 5, back to you, Bo. This is a game that I think, maybe 1% of the people in the SFL would have given San Diego a chance to win this game. The score looks like San Diego showed up to play, did they?
Well, Dave, listen, we are going to talk about a game of the week. I'm telling you, it's just not going to be this one.
Oh.
So, basically, Florida ruled this game from start to finish. There's really no surprise. It's 27-16. That leads one to believe that the Mavericks actually fought.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mean, I guess you could say they.
And the stats look pretty even, Bo.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So, Florida, let's start with San Diego. 320, and that's exactly what I saw, what I thought about when I saw this, Dave. 326 total yards for San Diego, right? Sounds good. 257 yards passing, 69 yards rushing. All right, so that's a little bit low, but it's not like Bullet had a 200-yard rushing day either, so that's about even. How? Javier Vasquez went 30 for 42. Sounds not horrible. 257 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 0 sacks. Now, I want to give San Diego some kudos for keeping Javier standing up. 0 sacks. They kept him clean the whole game. So he still somehow managed 2 interceptions. But nonetheless, he went, like I said, 0 sacks. Jalen Wells, 12 rushes, 62 yards, averaging 5.2 yards a carry. Doesn't sound like a bad day.
It's not bad.
Looking at the time of possession, however, and the first downs, time of possession was 23:57, ruled by Florida. What happened with Florida? They were just able to maintain the ball. 368 yards passing, total yards, 297 yards passing, 71 yards rushing, 3 total touchdowns, 22 first downs by Florida Storm. San Diego had 24. So again, there's something positive going on in San Diego. I've got a bold prediction, but I'm not going to say it. Something positive is going on in San Diego. And so they hung with them, but they didn't really. It was 17-3 at the half. It was 24-6 at the start of the fourth quarter, Dave. So if I'm being honest, I think that the Mavericks got a little bit of garbage points, if you will. They were able to score 10 points in the fourth quarter to close the gap a little bit. But in all honesty, the game was never really in question. So, but Florida had some great receiving yards by Stephen Bush with 66 yards and a touchdown. E.C. Minson, 119 yards on 9 receptions. And tight end Veridin Zarkov. I think that might be the first time in my life I've said that name. Veridin Zarkov with 5 receptions, 34 yards, and a touchdown. So shout out to him. But San Diego just at the end of the day couldn't really get going. And that seems to be a theme. If you watch the game, they move the ball well, but they always seem to stall out. Optimus Klein had 6 receptions for 65 yards. A good day for Optimus. It was nice to see him. Shea Carroll showed up 5 for 50. And Ryan Owens 5 for 45 and a touchdown. So they're moving the ball. You can see the progress that San Diego is making. So I want to give a shout out to San Diego. Florida, you guys rock. 9-2. There's not much left to be said besides you guys are like the number 2 seed right now. So shout out to Florida for shocking no one with this victory.
Right. Hey, so real quick, I got a couple comments I'm going to look at in the chat, but what I see positive also about San Diego is they that whole Charlie Boletsky and Doyle combination that they've been kind of running over people with held them to 75 yards total on 22 carries between 2 of them. That's pretty good defense. But Ron Cochran picked up the slack, throwing for 300 yards basically at 3 touchdowns and only a pick. Hunter Norwood in the chat real quick. We had 60-plus point totals occurred in only 23 of 119 games so far. And then this week, in Week 11, 6 of the 12 games, so half the game scored over 60 points. So he says offenses came out of the woodwork this past week. Jack's Data had this game, this over-under at 38.5. They scored 43 points in the game. That was pretty close. Florida was favored by 9.5, so that's not too bad. And we go over 500, SFL Nation. We took Florida 145-26 going in to Saturday's nightcap, Mike. DC at Houston. It looks like a kind of a grind. Oh my gosh, Houston! I apologize. I have San Diego's record on there on accident, and I must have forgot to switch both these records. So DC, welcome. You're welcome with the number 2 seed, and Houston. Good luck winning the game next week. Sorry about that. Obviously, hold on. Let me look that. Obviously, I was doing this graphic, and then I did. Oh, I didn't do Gunny's. Hold on. I did that graphic, and then I did that graphic. At least I changed. Hold on. Hey, at least I changed the stats. So that's good. So other than the records, Mike, tell us about this DC at Houston game. Like, dude, this show from the beginning, this is one of the ones, I may not even send this one to YouTube for storage. I might just delete it when we're done.
Well, you know how you just pointed out that Hunter said offenses came out of the woodwork. Not this game. And if I was to tell you before this game even played, one team was going to throw 4 interceptions. The other team wasn't. Would you have said the way it was is the way it is, or would you have gone the other way?
Probably the other way.
Yeah, because you got Relgar Law and Marco Swift coming from Houston side.
Yep.
But no, not the case. This was an all defense, all day long sort of game. And Eddie Gage, the Hall of Famer, said it right when during the broadcast he said, offense sells tickets, but defense wins games. And that's what this game was all about. Which defense was going to play better? And as we see, this time it was DC. It was a very slow plotting game because of the defense coming out here, but there were some really good plays in it. We had some nice pickoffs. Kanye Rockefeller had 2, one of which was to put the nail in the coffin to win the game, which he did not too very long after, taking a nice long kick return for touchdown, basically helping give his team the win almost single-handedly. The other gentleman was Jack Russell, the Terrier. He also had 2 interceptions.
Jack Russell, yeah.
But yeah, it was. If you like defense, it was an exciting game to watch, and I like defense, being a defensive end. It was fun to watch. It was a little bit back and forth. There was some fumbles. The teams did a decent job. Nobody was explosive on offense. Field goals by each team for the most part. It was a very slow touchdown game, but there was a nice play by Shabazz Synergy as he hit Jeff Banfield over the top of Houston's defense to take that 17-6 lead that helped to seal it, but to add 17-12, or as I like to say when you have this font up, pi to 12.
Real quick, I just want to in the chat. Somebody said, Dave Axel Raven said, "Oh, hey, I saw you on that article today too, Axel. By the way, we've all had those days, Dave." And then Hunter Norwood says Dave has those weeks. You know what? I must still be all shook up from the Final Four loss of UCLA. I must not have been thinking clear today. So again, my apologies on the records, DC and Houston, but the rest of the info is correct. What is Frank saying? Should be doing schoolwork, but I got to have some access. Yeah, dude, you got your priorities straight. That's all that matters. Yeah, it's Access Live. I think we talked about this earlier. It's Access Live. It's national security. It's marriage. Whatever. It's Access Live is at the top. Mike, thank you for that. Jack's Data had this game. 38.5 over under. Only 29 points scored in this game. Houston was favored by 6. They did not cover. And SFL Nation, we dropped to 3-3, 500 on the day. We took Houston 105-66 going into the break here with Gunny. Gunny, are you around? Second of all, I have no idea what's going to happen with your music. I don't know what's going to happen with anything with this show for the rest of the night, but I'm hoping I have it queued up properly.
I'm good. I'm doing a low crawl to the microphone as we speak.
All right, well, then you can knock yourself out and do your thing.
Hey, good evening, SFL. Hope everyone is enjoying their Tuesday night. Playoffs are just around the corner. We have only 8 teams out of 24 that are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Some key matchups to watch this week is number 12 St. Louis against number 9 Tulsa. Houston at number 7 Mexico City. Also, Florida and Jacksonville, 2 against number 6. Fort Worth, number 3 against number 10. Los Angeles is against Vancouver, 11 versus 5 for their own division win or championship. division standings as they speak. The Pacific Division is 17-27 with 2 playoff teams, Vancouver and Los Angeles, as it stands right now. In the West, 25-19. Right now, Denver and Las Vegas are in. Arizona at 5-6 is looking in for an upset of some 6-5 teams. In the South, all 4 teams are in the playoffs right now at 26-17. Houston at 5-5 is looking out, but they're still in contention with 2 remaining games with their makeup game coming up against London after week 12. In the Atlantic, even though they have a 26-18 record, the South has a 26-17 record with the 1 game of Houston, so they both have the best records of league-wise. But sadly to say, Carolina and Charleston both at 5-6. They are eliminated from the playoffs, and they play each other this week to see who gets to 500. In the East, 20-24, Tulsa and St. Louis are tied at 6-5. Atlanta right on the outside, peeking in at 5-6. And in the North, Baltimore is in the lead at 7-4. Houston is 4-6. London is 4-6, but they still have a chance to playoff 2 if they can win their next 2 games. And their record in their division, 17-26. The biggest movers from 2 weeks ago to now. Denver was number 1 2 weeks ago. They're still number 1. Florida still the same at 2. Fort Worth still the same at 3. Baltimore the same at 4. Vancouver's moved up 3 spots from 8 to 5. Jacksonville's number 6, still the same. Mexico City's dropped 2 spots from 9th to 7th, or 7th to 9th, or whatever I'm trying to say. Las Vegas has moved up a couple spots from 10th to 8th. Tulsa has moved from 12th to 9th. Lone Star has dropped from 7th to 10th, so they're -3. Los Angeles is still the same at 11. And Houston and St. Louis have jumped up +3 spots from 15th to 12th. And again, looking in at 5-5 is Houston, 5-6 Arizona, and 5-6 Atlanta. 4 teams are 6-5. 5 teams are 7-4. And like I said, there's 4 teams at 5-6. Week 12 is going to be exciting. Let's go, Glory. And Dave, that is all.
All right, Gunny, thank you for all the breakdown, all the detail. You know, I was having an interesting conversation in Gen Chat with EJ Menson, and we were debating whether it's going to take 7-5 to get in the playoffs. And I think I don't know if he's in the chat tonight, but I think what we came up with is that, first of all, 6-6 won't guarantee you a playoff spot, but there may only be 1 or 2 6-6 spots actually getting in, and there is a chance if Houston beats London in that makeup game on that Wednesday after week 12 that we could potentially have all 7-5 and better teams in the playoffs. It's kind of crazy. So all that being said, let's get into Sunday's game. Speaking of London, who's got London? Is that Nate?
Yep, that'd be me.
Didn't you say you mentioned something? You teased a little something about London earlier in your first game. So what do you got to say about this game?
Well, I'm going to prelude this section by saying I know Benji's in chat tonight, and he's going to probably want to turn down his volume for this section for the next 2 minutes.
Ouch.
Okay, so the score was 37-24, and you, by all means, look at the stats and say, how in the heck did London score 24 points? Because you got Fort Worth had 543 total yards, 381 in the air, 162 on the ground. Jason Williams had 161 yards rushing with 1 touchdown. Cam Curtis, yeah, he did throw 5 interceptions, but he still threw for 381 yards and 2 touchdowns. When a team rushes for only 12 yards in the entire game, Morpheus can get off my butt.
Yeah, I was like, Morpheus just threw you in the Matrix again.
But when a team goes 12 yards rushing the entire game, Vancouver, for example, if we go 12 yards rushing the entire game, for whatever reason, Redford doesn't have a great game, we're not going to win that game most likely. And London found that out firsthand. Robert Merrill had 13 attempts for 13 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
The bright spot for London, Dustin Zeck. 2 kick returns for touchdowns this week. And that's how they got 14 of those 24 points. So, yeah, if it wasn't for Dustin Zek, it would have been a huge lopsided victory for the Toros. And it probably should have been had it not been for those 2 kick returns.
Yeah, that would have been 37-10.
Right.
Let's talk about Robert Merrill for a second. I know we beat him up pretty good on this show already, but 13 carries for 13 yards, averaging 1 yard per carry, but he got a touchdown, which is something at least.
Right.
But here's the thing. As I'm looking at this, Dustin Zek is a great wide receiver. Benji Matson, he's an okay tight end. He looks better than he plays. But, I mean, they've got good receivers. Vin Kala is on here.
They do.
I mean,
and I was going to bring that. I was going to bring that up too, Dave. Because when Robert Merrill is their only 13 yards rushing, he was their leading receiver for that game.
Yeah.
For 74 yards receiving. None of McLean's other receivers got over 30 yards receiving that entire game. Looking at it really quick here, Saren Storm only had 29 yards receiving. Vin Kalia only had 13 yards receiving on 1 catch. Even Benji Matson, 3 receptions, 21 yards. I mean, they've got to get something going over there in London, or else teams are going to walk all over them. And this is proof right here.
In addition to 12 rushing yards, Nate, only 7 first downs. I believe that's the lowest for this entire week. 18% third down. That may be the lowest. I'm not 100% sure. We had a couple lower last week.
Right.
But let me ask you this. I know we're out of time, but I want to talk about Fort Worth just for a second. Is Fort Worth just this dominant? I mean, they wrapped up the South, the Tex-Mex division this weekend with this win. Are they just that dominant on defense, or did London just not show up to play?
A little bit of both. I mean, and not to take anything away from Fort Worth's offense also. We know they've got RGJ over there at tight end, and they've got Lauren Percoco, who's making a name for herself at the other tight end slot. And they've got Stephen Hacker at the wide receiver slot. So, I mean, Fort Worth is going to be a team to reckon with when it comes playoff time, and I hope we don't have to face them because it might not end well.
No,
not just because of Michael versus Lauren, but because of the other obvious reasons as well.
Right. In the chat, what I said about Benji, he says, "I'm going to reach through the screen and put the hair back on your head, Dave X." Attaboy, Benji. Let's see. Jack's data over under a 48.5. They scored 61 points in this game. Fort Worth was favored by 6.5. They covered. And SFL Nation, we start Sunday off the opposite way we started Saturday. We took Fort Worth 126-40 to go 1-0 on Sunday, going into game 2, Tyler. Vegas at St. Louis. I got to be honest with you. I mean, we know Vegas, St. Louis was on their down slope, and then they've kind of, they won that other game, but Vegas has been on the up and up. I did not see this kind of shellacking coming. What the heck happened here?
I'm telling you right now, Dave, the hottest team in the SFL is not Denver, is not Florida, it's Las Vegas. 5 straight wins on the bounce. Holy cow. This is the best winning record they've had since their inaugural season when they went 7-5. Another win next week would put them at their best ever. So holy cow, with a rookie quarterback no less than Colin Pierce. Man, they're flying. They have their scythes ready. Watch out, everybody in the playoffs. Las Vegas has your number.
I'm kind of dumbfounded, Tyler. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm looking at Vegas' stats. Colin Pierce, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. It doesn't jump off the page at me, right? Of course, Scott Johnson, 157 yards. That jumps off the page. But not enough to show me 40 points and a 13-point, almost a 2-touchdown victory over St. Louis. What is wrong with St. Louis? Are they back down again, or what happened?
Well, let's just talk about Las Vegas here real quick again. Why it kind of looks a little kilter is because Las Vegas multiple times were set up in excellent field position, whether it be from a pick or from a good kick return. Las Vegas were set up in prime field position, and it just forced Christian Brown to make unnecessary reads and unnecessary throws, which ultimately cost them the football game.
I'm a little concerned about St. Louis. I think they're on the cusp. I think they're, as of right now, they're what? They're the 12th and last seed. They're definitely going to have to beat Tulsa next week to even have a chance at the playoffs. If they lose, I think they're out. I want to.
That's for the division too.
And
that game right there is for the division.
That's crazy. So the loser of the team that's fighting for the division may not even make the playoffs. That's kind of crazy as well. Real quick, Tyler, I see just in chat, JV said, if drinking beer, smoking the devil's lettuce, and watching this weird Dave Axis show while watching the Vegas game is considered scouting, then yes, we do. Also, just real quick, on the last game, the Fort Worth game, I think it was Mike St. Green put in there that Williams is actually averaging over 100 yards a game. Let's talk about this St. Louis team real quick. Christian Brown, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. If I'm looking at the stats, Tyler, I'm thinking St. Louis won this game. Was there a defining moment, a defining play? I don't see anything that really tells me that Vegas just dominated them statistically.
Fourth quarter. It all came down to that fourth quarter. Both teams put up 14 points. Am I looking at this right? Yeah, they both put up 14 points. But it really was just the case of Las Vegas getting off to a good start right away in the first half, but just being able to
I don't think that's
allow
right.
certain plays to happen. And
I don't think that's right because I don't think 14, 10, and 7 equals 40 points. So I think they scored more points than that. I think you're right. I think that Vegas probably scored more points in the fourth quarter, bro.
Yeah, I think so. Because it looked. If I was remembering the game right, I think it was what? I think they scored 17 in that fourth quarter. I don't think St. Louis scored 14 in that quarter.
Oh, Max Jackson.
I could be wrong.
Max Jackson says 40-13. Last 5 minutes they got 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
So there you go. Here's the thing too, and I know we're out of time, Tyler, but I'm looking at Cairo Martinez only averaging 3 yards a carry. Bill Cherry, the fullback, averaging 1 yard per carry. Christian Brown is having to carry this team, and if they're seeming one-dimensional, isn't that the key to stopping St. Louis?
I think so. I mean, it definitely proved it. Las Vegas proved it again. That's how you stop it. If you make Christian Brown throw, with a couple inaccurate throws, you're always in with a chance.
Gotcha. Jack's Data had this game at 44.5. 67 points scored in this game. Vegas was favored by 3.5. They definitely covered that. And look at us, SFL Nation, starting Sunday off 2-0, taking Vegas 89-77. Again, a lot of these who you got's a lot closer this week than what we've been seeing normally. Game 3, Bo. Swarm at Scorpions. This was another game that everybody had their eye on this weekend. Mark versus Eddie, the whole 9 yards. The stats look pretty even for the most part with a few exceptions. How did this one break down?
Well, I tell you, now this one turned out to be, you could tell, you could almost feel the fact that these teams are literally fighting for their playoff lives. When you looked at this game, you could tell that you had a 4-6 versus a 4-6, two teams that were fighting for their playoff lives. And so basically Atlanta had to claw their way, and they were 4-6, and they had to fight their way to 5-6. So basically 326 total yards, 230 passing yards. Bryant Dynasty, again, if we look at when Atlanta wins games, typically Bryant Dynasty doesn't have these huge 400, 500 yard games. He also doesn't have these games where he's throwing the ball 40 and 50 times. So when you look at this game, Bryant Dynasty had 19 passes completed out of 26 attempts, 230 yards. And you think, okay, that's an okay day. But that's what you require out of Bryant Dynasty, because then you look at that beast of a man named BDG Hollywood, who had 39 attempts for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then you understand on which side the Atlanta Swarm's bread is buttered. They need BDG Hollywood to do this. This is how they win games. And so for Atlanta to make the playoffs, which they're right on the cusp, they're fighting for their playoff lives. And so if they, Scorpions are 5-5 in the driver's seat, and now they need help. Atlanta is fighting to get to that playoff, and they don't want to have to wait on anyone to help them. So if anybody's going to get in at 6-6, Atlanta's going to have to win next week and hope to get in. But they really went a long way to do that. And I think what a lot of it had to do with is that Atlanta watched a lot of game footage last week, and they saw what DJ Moses did. Last week, DJ Moses went ballistic.
Right.
And Atlanta said, okay, we're going to go for broke on stopping DJ Moses, and whatever else happens, happens. And so the game started off going back and forth. AZ jumped out to an early lead at 10-0. So you're thinking, oh, geez, okay, what's going to happen here with Atlanta? But Atlanta stormed back. By the time halftime came around, it was 14-10. Atlanta ended up putting up 14 unanswered points to take the lead by the halftime. And you're thinking, okay, Ashley's getting her rhythm going. She threw a couple of interceptions, but no matter, some of those weren't her fault, so we'll keep it going. Well, Atlanta came out in the third quarter and they took control. They broke the game wide open, scoring 17 points in the third quarter. By the time the fourth quarter came around, the score was 31-17. Atlanta never looked back. Ashley had an okay day, 26 for 45. 298 yards passing. She got caught with the interception bug yet again. Now, I said just a moment ago, some of those were not her fault, so we can't put it all on Ashley. But it seems to be a pattern that sometimes Ashley, when she has multiple interception games like this, their offense just does not seem strong enough to come back, because it's predicated a lot on DJ Moses. And when they have to abandon DJ Moses and go to the pass game, it throws off their game a lot. And so I noticed that about Arizona. And so overall, it was a pretty good game by Arizona, but Atlanta was all over the place. Their defense was all over the place. You had Cole Finnegan with 13 tackles, including 3 tackles for a loss, and then Chris Henry with 7 total tackles and 2 interceptions on top of it. So, as much as Arizona tried to do to stay in the game, they just couldn't overcome the interceptions. And I think that's the story in a nutshell.
Yeah, and how many times have we talked about this BDG thing? It seems like every time Atlanta loses, we are like, BDG 8 carries for 20 yards or something, and every time they win, BDG goes off. And the quick comment on Arizona, you're right. If you're going to key on DJ Moses, then Ashley has to step up to beat you, and unfortunately, She wasn't able to do that this weekend. Atlanta at Arizona, over under 48.5 by Jack's data, 66 points scored in this game. Arizona was actually favored by 7.5, so they absolutely did not cover. And we drop our first game on Sunday. We took Arizona 111-56. SFL Nation dropped to 2-1 on Sunday. Moving into the next game, Mike, Louisiana at Tulsa. I wasn't sure which way this was going to go. I actually thought that we talked about it on Thursday, that because the who you got was leaning towards Tulsa, that they were going to get jinxed and Louisiana was going to win the game. Obviously, that did not happen. Well, how did that break down?
So yeah, and this may have been probably one of the most watched games of the week, because everybody's looking to see, well, what do we have going now that Louisiana and their former franchise quarterback are no longer together. But it was a really entertaining back and forth game. We got to see the introduction of that boy down there, that Whiska Lafouche. Whiska Lafouche. And I would love to tell you exactly how well or poor Whiska Lafouche did.
But they don't put the generic stats on the website.
He's got no
so
stats.
We have no idea.
But he did throw 1 touchdown, so I know that for a fact. But they still had Reggie Streeter.
Yeah.
And they still did a valiant job. But it was really topsy-turvy just watching this game, because I couldn't get a beat on who might win this one. Tulsa, however, did a very good job coming through in the fourth quarter to pull out the victory. It was.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry, real quick. I need to let everybody know I messed up again. I forgot to put Louisiana and Tulsa's stats. Those are actually. Yep, Atlanta. I'm telling you, man. UCLA loses the Final Four, and I just go haywire. So, real quick, they each of those teams had over 400 yards of total offense. Louisiana threw for 254 yards. Tulsa 335, and then, like you said, Reggie Streeter rushed for 151. So my apologies again on the graphics. Go ahead.
Yes, you should apologize.
However, I have to. This has been the worst show I think we've ever had. But go ahead.
And I'm glad to be a part of it, Dave. But yeah, it was an exciting game to watch, because I didn't know how it was going to be. We've got this generic starting quarterback, and we've got Tulsa, who is run by. The offense is run by the former Lincoln Rattlesnake, JQ. I just got to put that out there. And JQ had a great day, 335 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw 3 picks, but they managed to overcome that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. It was really back and forth. Going into the third quarter, it was a 1 point difference in Louisiana's favor. But in the third quarter, Tulsa put up the 9 points needed to take that victory, and it was well worth a watch. It may not have been game of the week, but it was well worth the watch.
Yeah, Nate Heslop with 2 picks on defense, 3 pass deflections. Cameron Shaw had the other pick. Here's the thing. It's like a lot like Atlanta, Mike, when we talk about BDG, when we talk about Louisiana, when Reggie Streeter plays well, Louisiana plays well. Now, they didn't win the game, but they played well. If Johnny Pickler's in the game, and I understand it's the generic with the same stats, does it make a difference? I don't know. But I think Tulsa's on a mission this season, Mike. What do you think?
I think they are. They're definitely trying to show that they deserve to be in the conversation, and we'll find out after this coming week exactly which conversation they're in.
Well, speaking of conversation, Jack's data, 44.5 over under. This game there was 50 points scored, so that was pretty close. Tulsa was favored by 6. That was really close. And look at us, SFL Nation. This may be a historic moment. I don't know. I would have to go back. But we took Tulsa 122 to 47, and Tulsa still won the game. So congratulations to Tulsa. Congratulations to SFL Nation. Moving on to Game 5, Nate, on Sunday. Sparrows at Night Wings. This was a game, again, that when you looked at it in the preseason, we're like, this is going to be amazing. Week 11, these two teams fighting for, playoffs or maybe best record. Obviously, that's not the case. And it looks like the Sparrows kind of, I don't want to say they didn't show up, but, I mean, any team puts up 50 points. What can you say?
Yeah, I mean, Denver just had Sioux Falls' number this season. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't these two teams play earlier this season as well?
I think they may have. I think they did. I think it was a blowout then, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Denver blew out Sioux Falls on the road that time, but this time they just did it at their own home. But, I mean, looking at the numbers, Sioux Falls didn't play a horrible game. I mean, you see Julian Tyree at 18 of 33 for 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So not bad.
Not bad.
Colin Hart, 20 attempts, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. Again, not bad. But when you've got Denver firing at all cylinders on offense, defense, and special teams, you're not going to be able to do, much to stop this team once they start rolling like they did this game. Josh Miller went 28 of 34, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So, Josh Miller saw what Julian was doing, and he was like, well, look, I see your 2 interceptions, I'll do you one better. Jared McChesney, 24 attempts, 257 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns. When Jared McChesney gets going, and it's hard to stop him once he does start going.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop this guy no matter how hard you try. It was almost like watching Reggie Streeter running against us last year in that playoff game that we played. That's how dominant Jared McChesney has been this year. So,
couple quick things in chat, Nate, real quick. Sorry. Art Vandalay being funny, saying, how did Corey Hart do? Since I made that mistake several weeks ago. I don't know. Why don't you ask Bo Martin Jr. over there, Bo Martin Morpheus, in the corner. He'll probably know. He's wearing his sunglasses at night. Hey, yo. And who else? Oh, and then Jeremy said something in here I wanted to read. I mean, Jeremy doesn't say a whole lot that I would like to read, but he says something about, and I can't find it. No, I can't find it. But that Denver, nope, I don't know where it is. But that
Denver scored 2 touchdowns in garbage time.
So, yeah, well, I think he meant Sioux Falls, right? Sioux Falls scored 2.
Yeah, Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Against the backups. So, Nate, let me ask you this. Whatever else you have to talk about the game, go ahead. But I also want to ask you, MVP, is it McChesney or is it Peppers?
I don't think it's going to be Peppers just because the amount of interceptions he's thrown this season. Yeah, he's had a great season. He's leading in a lot of different stats, including yards thrown and touchdowns. But that turnover bug might be what stops him from getting the MVP this season. I think McChesney after this game may have jumped out in the lead in that race.
Okay. Well, for Jack's data, They had this over and under 47.5 with 74 points. I think maybe Hunter just got the numbers transposed a little bit. Denver favored by 10.5. They blew that out of the water. SFL Nation, 2 in a row. We took Denver 148-21 going into the last game on Sunday and the last game of the weekend, Tyler. Portland showing signs late here in the season of a team that may have to be reckoned with next season, going into Charleston and what I would consider an upset and potentially killing Charleston's playoff hopes. What happened here?
It did kill their playoff chances. They were officially eliminated
Okay.
by the Predators, unfortunately. But there's one thing I'd like to put on this game score line, and it's a big ol' asterisk.
Okay.
Why? Because Keith Swearingen and Ken Maccaro went down with injuries early on in that football game. So their offense was a beached whale for the rest of the football game. A beached whale. They could not move the football. Their backup running back tried valiantly, had one big run, but for the most part, if he was running the football, he was going backwards rather than forwards.
Right.
Their passing game was hit or miss. They did have one nice touchdown at the end of the game to Buchanan Simons, but against Charleston's offense, the Portland Fleet defense just completely just wiped the floor. It does have to be said, though, that there are two different sides of the football. So the Portland Fleet offense did play pretty well against that Predator defense. So 23 points, that's a good stat, but against a wounded Predator offense kind of makes me question what could this game have looked like if they had a full strength offense.
I'm looking at the stats, bro, and I got to tell you, if we had a second half of the season MVP, we may have to talk about Ezekiel Love. This kid has been going off for several weeks now. 207 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Predators. I mean, this, again, in addition to Portland as a team being reckoned with next season, is Ezekiel Love going to just be a force to be reckoned with?
He's going to continue to grow. I really liked watching him play so far this season. Really liked the game he had, especially over 200 rushing yards. Really phenomenal performance. He's only going to continue to grow, Dave. Looking forward to next season for him.
Yeah, and, we've been hard on Matt South on this program as well. Again, I think maybe, like you said, due to injuries. But Matt South, only 136 yards, no touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Tyler, if you show me those stats ahead of time, I'm telling you Portland gets blown off the field in this game. So you're saying, if I'm reading you correctly, the injuries were the difference in the game, period.
Completely the difference. I mean, there are two different sides of the football, and the situation dictated that Portland was going to have the ball more often, so they were able to do much and able to work within their game plan a whole lot more than Charleston was. So again, the game plan was a little. This game's a little bit lopsided, a little bit more in Portland's favor.
A little misleading.
Still a solid performance.
Yeah, it's too bad too. I mean, Swearingen against Love would have been a nice thing to see for 4 quarters. Jack's data had this game at 44.5, 36 points scored in this game. Within the, it's close. Charleston was favored by 3.5, and I think that maybe that could have happened with without the injuries. This was the closest who you got. 86-81 for Charleston. So we dropped the last game to go 4-2 on Sunday and 7-5 over the entire weekend for Week 11. JV saying, I love me some Tom Peppers, always and forever, but with all due respect, there is no race for MVP because the J train is light years ahead of Tom, but please vote Tom Offensive Player of the Year. All right, Jeremy, we'll make a note, buddy. That is those are your Week 11 recaps, even with all the graphic errors, and we got through it okay, I guess. Luckily, that's not the norm. Let's go into Diva of the Week real quick. Tyler, you think you have? Do you want to do your Netma now? You want to get out of the way, or
let's jump on that now, and then I'll give you my Diva of the Week, and then I gotta bounce.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Tyler has to bounce early tonight. He has to get back to serving our country. but he was on loan to Access Live for the last couple hours. So, Tyler, tomorrow night, Wednesday, 8 p.m. What's next on Netma?
Thanks, Dave. Next on Netma, it ain't over until it's over, but already we've had multiple teams and players begin making their offseason plans. We all know that Pickler is on the move, but what's the deal with Queen City? Are the 4-time champs cleaning house? And is a member of the defending champion Baltimore Vultures retiring? What's going on with Baltimore looking for a halfback when they have T. Roy Gaines back there? And why I believe everyone should be rooting for San Diego to lose on Saturday. The final season 16 regular season episode airs live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Netma.
All right, Tyler, thank you for that. And everybody tune in tomorrow, 8 p.m. You'll get, in addition to everything he said, you'll get the updated power rankings, right, Tyler?
Exactly.
All
and
right.
I'll, of course, answering everybody's questions, too.
Yes. All right, so we're going to go with Tyler first, and then we'll go to Bo and work our way through. So, Tyler, since you have to bounce, let's start with you. Who is your Season 16, Week 10 Diva of the Week nominee?
Well, I think you mean Week 11, Dave, but then again, the graphics
dude,
are a little weird.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro. I don't even know why I even tried tonight. I don't even know why I tried today. I should have just, I should have done it. The whole show should have just been that. We should have just gone straight to After Dark, man. Go ahead.
There we go.
Oh, my goodness.
There we go. All right, Diva of the Week, Week 11. A lot of people were looking at, a lot of good rushing performances, a couple of standout defensive players, but I'm picking one play in particular. It's from the St. Louis-Las Vegas football game. I think it's one of the bright spots that St. Louis will have on their record. Phil Koss ran a corner route for his touchdown and made two defenders run into each other so that he went untouched into the end zone. If that's not Diva, I don't know what is.
All right, very good. Tyler,
and with that, Dave and everybody, I'm out.
I'm going to censor you, and you can boogie. Thanks for being here, bro.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Hey, real quick, couple things in the chat. Charles is saying all this is happening because I'm not wearing a hat tonight. I honestly think it's because my Bruins lost. Will Todd is calling the show a dumpster fire. Bro, I couldn't argue. I mean, I can't even argue with that. I couldn't agree more. What is Andy saying? Andy's saying Jared ain't even the best halfback. Look at the yards per carry. Is that all he's? Yeah. So are you implying it's Robert Redford, Andy? Is that what you're trying to say? Throw that in there so we know the stats, the yards per carry stat. In the meantime, while we're waiting on that, Morpheus, you want to give us your Season 16, Week 11 Diva of the Week nominee?
Yeah, so Tyler said if that ain't Diva, I don't know what is. So I'm going to tell you what is since he doesn't seem to know. So I was watching that Mexico City Baltimore game. Great game, right? And so Mexico City had this nice lead, and Baltimore came storming back to take the lead 23-26. Cole Varner comes in and kicks a clutch 55-yard field goal to save the to put them back in the lead. However, Baltimore still had time left. So the Super Bowl champs are not going to, or the championship season 15 champs are not going to go out like that. So they're driving the field, and all they need is a field goal to win the game. Enter names that you may not have heard before or may not hear too much if you're outside of Mexico City. Enter Ben Charbs and Jack Napier. So Jack Wigmore drops back to pass, and Ben Charbs, the free safety out of Mexico City, makes a diving tip right to his partner, Jack Napier, for a pick that seals the victory, that stops Baltimore's drive and seals the victory. So you got two people for my nominee because it was a tag team effort. Shout out to Ben Charbs tipping the ball to Jack Napier to seal the win. Now that's Diva.
That is pretty Diva as well. I think you disappointed Frank in the chat. He was hoping you were going to nominate Dustin McCrack again. And then Gunny saying that Charles misses my big ass my big ass bill on my hat. Let's see what Andy says real quick before we get to you, Mike. He's saying McChesney has 5.8 yards per carry. Robert Redford's at 6.1. I'm saying how can McChesney be light years ahead in the MVP race when you can't even lead the yards per carry rates at your position. I'd like to, Andy. We should look up total yards, carries, whatever. Arguably the most important stat at your position. I agree, it's an important stat. What about total yards? I'd like to know that too. And Ramos saying thank you, Bo. I would nominate his own player. He's Diva because he refuses to cover anyone. Yeah, well, he's too busy. Right? I get it. He's too busy to be covering anybody working on defense. All right, Mike. Season 16, Week 11, Diva of the Week nominee. Who is it?
Right before I get that, Dave, just because he might have missed it in the chat, I just want to shout out to Jeremy real quick. He's got the best damn game manager in the SFL, Josh Miller. Thanks, Jeremy. Anyways, when it comes to Diva of the Week, you want somebody that's Diva through and through. And Bo, thanks for that waste of breath that you just had there, because it's all about the name to start with. Kanye Rockefeller. That's a Diva name right there. On top of that, Kanye Rockefeller, to help his team win, took a 106-yard return for a touchdown to help seal the lead that was insurmountable in his game. Not only that, but to kill the game, he picked off the ball in the end zone, nail in the coffin, Diva of the Week. Out.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's another one. Let me get back into here. Jeremy and Andy going at it in chat back and forth. But Doug Britton bringing the total yards, 1,634 for McChesney, 1,285 for Robert Redford. Nate, who is your Season 16, Week 11 Diva of the Week nominee?
I almost feel bad for saying it because it's going to be fueling Andy's fire that he started at that. But my Week 11 Diva of the Week player, is none other than Robert Redford. Now, I'm just going to read you his stat line from this past week, but that's not going to be why he got Diva of the Week in my book.
Okay.
I'll tell you why after I read his stat line. 24 carries, 238 rushing yards, 9.9 yards per carry with 3 touchdowns, and all 3 of those touchdowns were in the first half. And he did add 6 receptions for 40 yards. Saying all that to say this, the Diva moment was after he scored his 3rd touchdown in the second quarter. We're playing at home. He turns around and moons our home crowd after his 3rd touchdown. So that is the reason why I nominated Robert Redford as my Diva of the Week, is because he took it upon himself to moon our hometown fans. And I'm sure Andy had to talk to him afterwards about what that was all about.
I'm sure he did. That is definitely Diva, though. I will give you that for sure. Let me see here. Somebody said 1268 for... Okay. Gunny, are you with us?
Yes.
All right, Gunny. Who's your Season 16, Week 11 Diva of the Week nominee?
As much as I was impressed with Dave Access prediction in the 3rd quarter when Queen City was winning 34-21, that the outcome would be 35-34.
I did.
I'm going to go with Cam's Xboxes that produced 1,500 SFL games. So I'm going with the Cam's Xboxes, 1,500 of them games for my Diva of the Week.
That's a pretty good one. Gunny always thinking outside the box. Gunny, we appreciate you for that. Lone Star Glory saying, that's Charles. Come on, Dave. Gunny, do the right thing. Not sure what he's talking about in there. But here's the thing. Yeah, Axel, you're right. Smoke coming out of him at this point. I wouldn't doubt it. All right, here is the actual Season 16, Week 11 Diva of the Week. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, I'm going to tell you who. The Diva of the Week is actually Ike McBride, the running back for my glorious Lone Star Glory. She had 19 carries, 159 yards, and a touchdown. She also had 10 receptions for 52 yards and another touchdown, including a 71-yard rushing, and also an 8.4 yards per carry average on the day. Those are great stats. Part of why I want to nominate her is because she carried us in the first half. Without her dominating performance in the first half, we're not in the game probably to make the comeback that we came. More importantly, and this is the reason why right here, her sister passed away last week. She got a game ball from Cam or Mike St. Green in the SFL show, and she dedicated that game and that game ball to her sister. So my nominee for season 16, week 11 Diva of the Week is none other than Ike McBride. And Ike, we've been thinking of you, praying for you and your family in that terrible situation with your sister. So, all right, there we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 6 of them. I'm sure Eagle will have the poll up in. Dude, they're still going at it in here about this. Andy said now they're talking about touchdowns per how many carries. I might make the show go extra long just so we can watch the two of them argue all night about this. This would be great. Eagle. Oh, there you go. Eagle's already on the ball. Look at him. Eagle's got the poll in the server, so you can go and vote for who you want to be the Diva of the Week nominee or Diva of the Week for Week 11. Real quick, before we get to After Dark and start to talk about playoffs, I do want to give you a Survivor update. Everybody won this week. Everybody. Somebody picked Tulsa. 2 people picked who did San Diego play again? Florida. And then 2 people picked Lone Star. So there was close. The 2 people who picked Lone Star, they must have been on the edge of their seat the whole time, losing their mind to win that by 1. So Tom Rahman, myself, Johnny Pickler, Jack Wall, and Ray all still going into the final week and over $3,000 on the line. All right, now let's get into some After Dark. Tyler had to bounce, but we still have 3 other panelists here that I want to talk to about the playoffs. Let me get the graphic up real quick. Bo, I'm going to start with you. There's just craziness surrounding this 7-win or 6-win, and even these teams that have 5 wins with a very slight chance to get in with a 6th win. As I'm looking at this, though, the most intriguing situation to me is the East, right? And we touched on it earlier. Tulsa's 6-5, St. Louis is 6-5. Tulsa has the edge for now. The winner of that division will make the playoffs. The loser of that game will probably not even make the playoffs. First of all, how crazy is that? And what does that say about that division versus some of the other divisions?
Yeah, that's got to be one of the craziest divisions in the SFL, because if you think about it, there's some divisions where you're going to have 3 and possibly even 4 teams making the playoffs. Whereas if you look at their division, either you win your division or you get nothing. So it's going to be tough. And I got to tell you, St. Louis, I'm rooting for you guys. I've got a lot of friends in St. Louis, but they've got to figure some things out. I know some members of the other staff, and I know that they've been working feverishly to get it together. They're out of time. They've got to win this weekend, and they've got to get some help to get in the playoffs. They've got to win this week to control their own destiny. So, they're going to get it together. But I struggle to think of if there may only be one 6-6 team to get in, if any. So, it's going to be tough. Both of those teams really need to win, and they're going to be fighting for it.
Right. Speaking of potential 6-6 teams, Michael, let's take the Pacific Division for a moment. We talked earlier about how there is a scenario if Houston beats London in that replay game or makeup game, whatever they're going to call it, on the Wednesday after Week 12, that all teams going to the playoffs could potentially be 7-5. Of course, there's other games in Week 12, but that is a potential scenario. With the Pacific Division on the line, if LA loses and they drop to 6-6, they could be one of the teams on looking out. If LA beats Vancouver, then they could put 2 teams in. How do you think that game's going to go? And do you think they send 2 teams into the playoffs from the Pacific Division?
At this moment, I'd like to say yes, that 2 teams do get in. And it's going to be a tough game. Los Angeles versus Vancouver. Everything's firing on all cylinders for Vancouver right now. Los Angeles has had its ups and downs, but I think they do have the formula in place where they might have the idea on how to stop Vancouver. And that formula may involve not having much stoppage and just scoring more than they do, a la our game against them this last week. Thanks for that, by the way, blurry face. But yeah, Los Angeles has done it before, and they could do it again. But I feel like both teams do make the playoffs.
Tyler, the South, I believe.
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who was that?
Shoot. Sorry, Nate. Sorry, I forgot Tyler left. My bad. As I'm looking at this, and correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like the South is the only team that has 3 teams in as it stands now. I think that is correct, with the potential to get a 4th team if Houston gets in with their win. If they win this week and then they win against London, what do you think the possibility or the percentages are that one division actually gets 4 teams in the playoffs?
I think there's a high percentage that there's going to be 4 teams from one division in the playoffs, and it very well could be that South Division. We've seen how tough that Tex-Mex can be all season long. Not much separation between all 4 of these teams, and I really do see Lone Star and Houston finishing with the same records of 7-5. Well, that actually, am I correct when I say Houston plays Mexico City this week?
Houston, I don't know. Does anybody in the chat know off the top? We'll talk about that on.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Gunny always knows the answer. So
Yeah,
okay.
There you go, Gunny. Thank you.
Right. So
Yeah, I could see Houston beating Mexico City and making it a 3-way tie for 7-5 in that division. Honestly, so if that scenario does play out, then yes, there's a very high possibility that would get all 4 teams in the playoffs.
Bo Martin Jr., back to you real quick. We're gonna do one more round and then we'll wrap this shindig up. 7-5 seems to be what will get you in the playoffs.
Right.
We have some 6-5 teams. We have some 5-6 teams, and then we have the anomaly that is London and Houston. As you look at the wild card right now, it's going to be Tulsa or St. Louis. Lone Star and LA we think are going to get in. If St. Louis loses and drops out, or Los Angeles loses or drops out, who's a 6-5 team or a 5-6 team now that you see would jump in? Is it going to be Houston? Is it going to be London? Could it potentially? I think Carolina and Charleston are both eliminated, if I'm not mistaken. Or I think is Arizona still alive? That's another possibility. What do you see? Who do you see jumping in if Tulsa beats St. Louis and Los Angeles loses?
Oh, this is where the waters get really muddy, Dave.
Yeah.
If Tulsa beats, I'm gonna say, gosh, you said Atlanta's eliminated, right?
No, Atlanta's not eliminated. I believe Carolina and Charleston are eliminated, from what Tyler said earlier. I think Atlanta still has a chance.
Okay, so I'm gonna say for a team that's, they've done it once already, so I think that they'll probably be able to do it again. As far as, and what I'm speaking of is beating Houston.
Right. So,
London had to go in and they beat Houston. For whatever reason, they've got to play the game again due to an issue they had. If London can beat Houston again, they've got the best shot. I think they've got the best shot of any 6-6 team to get in. So if they can beat Houston, that gives them a huge edge, and I think they squeak into the playoffs at 6-6.
Okay, let's do Mike. I'm gonna have you make a prediction. Let's say that the playoff seedings are all set, and then we have that last game on that Wednesday, London versus Houston. The winner goes to the playoffs, loser goes home. Who wins the game and goes to the playoffs? Oh, I think you're muted, bro.
Sorry, I had to be the one, I guess, I suppose.
We got to have at least one per show, bro. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's going to be a tough one because, Houston's got a lot of strong football minds running the show. But London has really found something that's working for them. They've turned their team around. They've doubled their wins from last year. I forget what the score was before it died, but you know what? I feel like this is one that
I think they played that game. Are you talking about the Houston-London game?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they played the whole game. London beat Houston, but then they found out that the previous week playbooks were in instead of the current ones, so they have to replay the entire game over.
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking. I think London still pulls this one out. London just barely beats Houston, mind you, but they pull it out and they step in.
Okay. Mr. Matrix, same question to you, Nate.
Yeah. Just on, you mean on the
London,
Houston,
London, Houston.
Yeah.
It's going to come down because here's the thing. I honestly feel Tulsa or St. Louis will get in, not both. I think Los Angeles will probably get in. I'm sure Lone Star will get in. So if you base it on all that, there's only going to be one spot left, and it's going to come down to that last game of the season.
Yeah, and I still think that South's going to end up with all four teams from that division in the playoffs. So if that's going to happen, they have to beat London, and I think they've got the right tools to do it. I mean, I think we've bashed London enough for one night with their 13 yards rushing. So I'm just going to go out and say it: Houston on the win.
Yeah, Benji just mentioned Arizona's still alive. Mike St. Green mentioned Atlanta's still alive. I think Atlanta has the toughest uphill climb because they're behind St. Louis and Tulsa already with the same record, so they're probably losing tiebreakers. So Atlanta's probably not as good a chance as Vegas, from what I understand. But, I mean, we won't know until Cam breaks it all down for us after Week 11, which we'll be discussing in about 48 hours from now. So I guess we should start wrapping this shindig up. Want to thank everybody that was on the show tonight. Bo Martin Jr. or Bo Martin Morpheus, I guess we'll call him from now on. Messing up the Matrix and Nate Hall over there. Mike All also, and then Tyler Falk, who had to bounce. Gunny, thank you as always. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody in the chat going back and forth. Giving me crap for all the graphics I messed up. I honestly don't know if I'm going to move this one to YouTube. I might just leave this one and let it expire on Twitch and say goodbye to it forever. We'll be back here in about 48 hours. Ray, oh, that's not going to happen. Sorry, Ray. There's been some other things that have gone on that make that maybe not going to happen after all. So sorry to keep you guys waiting on this announcement. I don't even know if it's going to happen now, so I will try to keep you updated. Thank you for reminding me. But as of right now, there's no show announcement that I can make. Yes, Lone Star Glory with your question mark. And David Leathers, the best first name in the SFL. And Eagle Mondavi. Yeah, the announcement is Eagles coming back on the show on Thursday. So there you go. There's your announcement. All right. All that being said, we need to just get out of here because this show has just been nonsense from the beginning. Am I giving up wine? No. That would take a miracle, Charles. And there's no miracles. We don't announce miracles on this show. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for being in the chat. We'll see you Thursday night, 9 p.m. right here on Twitch. Don't forget tomorrow night, NETMA with Tyler Falk at 8 o'clock. And then we'll see you Thursday night right back here when we see you at the Tees.